Hey friends, welcome to SmokeyGood. First, let me say thank you for tuning into our channel. This is a new channel and I appreciate you choosing SmokeyGood. What we're hoping to do here at SmokeyGood is to make smoker cooking easy. Keep it simple with clear instructions and video details. If you like what we're up to here at SmokeyGood, please subscribe. We have a lot more content on its way in the next few months. Feedback is also important, so I'd love to hear your comments so we know how we're doing. Today's video is the first in a series we call SmokeyGood Favorites. These 5 are popular cuts of meat and a good way to get started if you've got a new pellet grill. What I want to give you is everything you need to know in each video. Our next episode on cooking SmokeyGood beef ribs is coming up. Click subscribe now, lower right corner. Hi, my name's Jim Edmonds and welcome to SmokeyGood. We're here on the central coast of California, and I know that you tuned in today to talk about pork ribs. Maybe you got yourself a new smoker, new pellet grill, and you're looking for some help. Well, I'm here to help you out. We're going to talk about pork ribs of all kinds today. We're going to talk about spare ribs, baby back ribs, St. Louis style ribs, country style ribs. I'm going to try to give it all to you in one video. We're going to talk about how to prepare them and how to smoke them. So guys, strap on your apron. You got this. So before we get started, let's look ahead to what we've got to look forward to. Beautiful, succulent, smoky pork ribs. All right, let's get to work. So first, let's take a look at our cook's notes and see what we're going to be up to. First, we're going to season the ribs with kosher salt during the dry brining process. We're going to use some really awesome Flying Swine all-purpose rub. And we're going to see that it's going to take us about 3 hours to cook the St. Louis and about 5 hours, a little bit longer, to cook the back ribs. We're going to be smoking at 250 degrees. Going to use some pecan wood. And we're going to try to get an internal temperature, roughly, it's difficult to measure, but up around the high 180 range. And yeah, if you want more details on this, check out the SmokeyGood blog. So before we get started, let's talk about the types of ribs. And here you can see 3 types. One type you don't see mentioned here is the St. Louis style rib. So let's start there and explore how we can cut St. Louis ribs out of spare ribs. So here we have a beautiful rack of spare ribs. Now these have a distinctive shape. You'll notice on the right hand side here we have a rounded edge, and on the left hand side of the rack is a straight edge. So let's trim off the right side of this rack. We have perfectly good meat, but it contains some cartilage and some gristle, so we want to remove that and set that aside. And what remains on the left side is going to be a St. Louis style rack of ribs. So to make this cut, just feel along the middle of the rack and look for the termination of the rib bones along the way. Then just make a parallel cut that follows the left side of the rib rack. Now we won't throw these cuts away. We're going to chop these up a little bit and we're going to smoke them, and they're quite tasty onto themselves. So let's move on and compare the St. Louis ribs on the left and the baby back ribs on the right. And now looking at the back ribs, you can see by this comparison that they're quite a bit different in shape and thickness, and obviously will cook differently than the St. Louis. But frankly, for the backyard smoker, both of these racks of ribs are going to be delicious. Now, St. Louis ribs are well known as the gold standard for smoking if you're competing in a smoking competition. The professionals love these ribs because of their shape, their consistent thickness, and the tenderness of the meat. So now that we've looked at the baby back ribs and the St. Louis ribs, let's take a quick look at country style ribs. These are actually not ribs. These are cut from the shoulder of the hog near the end of the pork loin, and they taste a little bit like pork chops rather than ribs. Don't get me wrong, if you cook them up smoky good, they're fabulous. Getting back to our baby back ribs and St. Louis ribs, Now on these ribs, we want the seasoning and the smoke to be able to penetrate the ribs from both sides. So in order to do that, we're going to remove the membrane that you find on the back of the rack. This is easily done, but it does take a little bit of practice. Start by taking the tip of your knife and score the membrane along the last bone on either end of the rack. This will expose a corner of the membrane. Using a paper towel, grab the corner of the membrane and begin to peel it back. Sometimes it comes off in one piece, other times not so much. Right, let's see that again. It can be a bit tricky, but you'll get the hang of it. Got lucky this time, pretty much in one piece. Here they are. Both racks have been dry brined and seasoned, heading for the refrigerator. Let's see how we did it. So let's start with the dry brining. We're going to coat both racks of ribs with kosher salt. Then we're going to let them rest for at least 6 hours, or if possible, overnight, and always in your refrigerator. Dry brining is an important process to make sure that your ribs will stay tender and juicy every time. It is especially effective with ribs due to the thinness of the meat, which allows the salt to penetrate from both directions. Okay guys, now for our final step, applying the seasoning or the rub. Today we're using Flying Swine all-purpose rub, which I find is perfect for pork ribs and pork shoulder and other pork dishes. It adds a nice sweetness and savory flavor to the surface of the meat, which is then carried into the meat by the salt during the dry brining process. Hey, Jim Admins here. Hope you guys are getting what you need so far. Send me your comments, suggestions. We're back in the SmokeyGood kitchen. Our ribs have been resting overnight, getting nice and tender, ready for the smoker. Are you ready? Let's do this. We've got our 2 racks here, along with the trimmings from when we created our St. Louis rack. We have the Memphis loaded up with pecan wood, which is going to add a nice mild smoke flavor to our ribs. Well, here we go. Our smoker is at 250 degrees today, and the St. Louis ribs should be done in about 3 hours, and the bigger rack of baby backs will take more like 5. As you can see, we've got the rib tips loaded up on a pan and rack, and those will be cooked right around the same time as the St. Louis ribs. So while those are cooking, let's talk about my love for pork. When you grow up in a town where that city limits sign features pork, what choice do you have? But what's not to like? Look at these beautiful mahogany colored ribs. Pork smokes up beautifully. Ribs, pork shoulder, pork chops, all terrific in the smoker. Yep, it's true. I grew up surrounded by pork. Farmers markets like this one, with wonderful people like these, offering this amazing handcrafted food. You see Canadian bacon mentioned everywhere. This is Canadian bacon. Beautiful pork loin, pickled and rolled in pea meal. Fry it or cook it on your grill for breakfast. Okay, my SmokeyGood friends, let's get back to smoking some ribs. So here's our cook's notes. Just a reminder of what we've been up to. Hope this is helpful. Well, here they are. Here's the unveiling. 2 beautiful looking racks of ribs. And now for the question I get asked most often about cooking ribs. How will I know when they're done? Since there's not enough meat in between the bones to hold a meat thermometer, we need to find another way to check the doneness of our ribs. It's a simple test. Pick the ribs up like you see here and begin to bend them. And if you see a nice crack forming between the ribs, you know your ribs are ready. If the rack breaks completely in half with a little bit of pressure, then they're most likely overdone. Well, here we are, guys. Let's take a look at this rack of St. Louis ribs. Let's see what we've got. Beautiful, soft and tender. Nice looking smoke ring. And the smell is amazing. And now for the back ribs. Beautiful, shiny mahogany color. And man, do they smell smoky good. All right, let's check and see if these guys are done. Yeah, it looks like we've got a nice crack forming there between those ribs. There's another one here. And you give it a little shake. Yep, these baby backs are definitely done and ready for the dinner table. All right, let's slice these babies up and see what we've got. Beautiful, soft, and tender meat. Terrific smell. Beautiful color. These are definitely smoky good ribs. Okay, my friends, that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching Smoky Good. I hope you got what you came for. Would love to hear your comments or questions. This has been episode 1 of the Smoky Good Favorites series. There are 4 more videos on the way. Don't forget to subscribe. Check us out at SmokeyGood.com.